Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. So far, I've been doing videos on various LeetCode hard problems that involved either backtracking or dynamic programming or things like that. This time, I wanted to do something different. So as part of this video series, let's try to learn and develop an end-to-end web application using microservices architecture and various technologies like Angular, SpringBoot, MongoDB, and Redis cache. If you haven't had a chance to build web applications or end-to-end applications, then I promise you that this is going to be a really good learning experience. So let's get started. Okay, the application that we are going to design and implement is called MoviesDB. And this application has one simple feature, movie search. That is, whenever a user searches for a particular movie, our application is going to return details about that particular movie. Now the details can be like who is the director of that movie, who are the actors who have acted in this movie, what is the release date, and things like that. Now let's take a look at the high-level architecture of this application. Okay, so we'll use a three-layered architecture to design our application. So in the first layer, we'll have our UI microservice that will be written using Angular. In the second layer, we'll have our application server that will provide us the necessary RESTful APIs that is consumed by this UI application, and this is written using SpringBoot. And the third layer is the database layer, and we'll use MongoDB to store the data. Now let's take a look at how the requests and responses are flowing between our microservices. So initially the user, that is the browser, issues an HTTP GET request to this UI microservice. This GET request will include the search string, that is the movie that the user wants to search for. Now this UI microservice will process that request, and in turn it will issue another GET request to this backend SpringBoot application. So this is another microservice. Now this backend application server or microservice will contact the database, and if the user's search string matches any of the movies in the database, then those movies are fetched from the database, and this microservice will in turn, this SpringBoot application will in turn return those details to the UI microservice. This UI microservice will in turn return the data as well as the HTML and CSS which can be rendered by the browser. So this is the general flow. Our application will be read heavy. So what do I mean by that? Let's assume that there is a new movie that is going to be released. Now, many people will be interested in new movies. Now, let's say there are thousands of users that are interested in that new movie and are trying to use our application to fetch the details about that particular movie. Now, hitting the database for every one of those thousands of requests made at the same time will be pretty expensive. Also pretty ineffective. Now, how can we counter this? So, we can use a caching server like Redis cache. So how does this flow work? Let's assume that a particular user makes a request for that new movie. Now that particular request is routed to this application server. This application server will contact Redis and then check if that new movie is there in its cache or not. If the Redis server says it doesn't have the details, then the app server will contact the database, get the details, and it will write that data to the Redis cache. Also, that data is provided back to the user. Now, the subsequent requests to the same movie will always be fetched from this Redis cache. This can be better understood when we actually implement this. Okay, now let's take a quick look at the UI of our application to get a better understanding of what we are trying to build, and then we'll try to build everything from scratch.